The second season of Legion wrapped up in mind-bending fashion, concluding with David Haller's heartbreaking heel turn.
You know what? I'm done. You had your chance.
No.
But let's be honest though, the lines between good and evil, as well as reality and delusion, are completely blurred in this show, so it seems like anything is possible for Season 3.
What's up everybody, Greg and Ryan here to share our wish list for what we want for Season 3 of Legion.
Yeah, a long list of things that we want to see happen in the next year of Legion. But first, make sure you're subscribed because you don't want to miss any of these TV show breakdowns and comic book deep dives. Right now, we're breaking down Season 3 of Preacher. Check it out.
Now, major spoiler warning ahead. If you haven't finished the season yet, get out of here, go finish it, then come back here.
If you haven't finished it, what's taking you so long?
Go
watch it, guys.
Okay, number one, right off the bat, Noah Hawley, don't be scared of the comics at all.
Totally agree with you. You know, we've seen a few references here and there, but Holly doesn't like to lean too heavily into the comic book pages.
Understandably.
I would love to see a little bit more, though. There were moments last season when we saw David actually looking like comic book Legion, and that was awesome. So I hope that we get a little bit more nods of that stuff sprinkled into the Season 3.
Yes, I'm not asking for a big comic nod or a bunch of characters that we do Age of Apocalypse storyline. We're not asking for that. Just take a few more characters and just themes from the comics and intertwine that into the season next time.
They fought here, in the astral plane, with their minds.
And we always talk about Xavier and everything, but on top of that, you don't have to bring in a big X-Men character or any big name. I'm talking obscure characters, something like that fits in the Legion. Like
opens up the universe a little bit more.
Yeah, like Orb. Orb is a character that's, he's a psychotic man who literally just has a motorcycle helmet that's an eyeball that allows him to just shoot laser beams and he can control people's minds. That's it.
That sounds perfectly spot on for Legion.
That's Legion. Come on.
Number two, more of the dark side of David Haller. I think the best parts of this show is when you can create a compelling villain as Legion. You know, he's not completely a villain, he's also not completely a hero, because he does a lot more harm than good to people all around the world, in the universe, in the comic books. Yeah. So I want to really, really emphasize more of the dark side of him.
I have a feeling that's where they're going. I hope that he's just the main villain going into the next season. Doubtful, because they're going to add new characters. We know that every new season has something like that, so they're going to add somebody new. But on top of that, he has to be the villain after what we saw him do last season with Sid.
David, you drugged me and had sex with me.
No, that's not.
Noah Hawley's even said that he views Legion as more of a tragedy. Yeah. And he doesn't want it to turn into some like redemption story of how he went bad and then went back to good and all that kind of stuff.
That's a good idea.
It's a tragic comic book character who is sick and does harmful things to others.
Do something for me.
Anything.
When the time comes, prove me wrong.
Let's forget about David as the hero of this show. It has to be Sid, right? I mean, she said it herself.
Yeah. At some point this season, we've noticed a turn in how the characters are reacting to each other. Not many people are thrilled with Sid's character development towards the end of the season, especially her decision-making right
Easily
at the end.
manipulated and naive, yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't help to say that she's going to be the main hero, main protagonist in Season 3. But again, there's time. I trust Noah Hawley to develop this character a little bit more next season to really have us rooting for her.
I think it's a good idea and a good thing for us to see Sid as more than just a love interest for David. To develop that character and give us more of. We saw one episode with her, more of her backstory. I want more. I want to see more, and she could definitely play a big part in Season 3.
I hope there is more of her backstory and she's not created from someone's mind.
And speaking of a particular person's mind, David, let's explore more of his multiple personalities, right? I mean, that's what the comics are all about. And there's been instances in both Season 1 and Season 2 when we saw David talking to himself and different versions of himself. I hope we can explore more of that in Season 3.
Yeah, I hope it's not just the angel and devil over his shoulders kind of scenario. Let's really go into his powers now. Let's see what's going on. Let's get the origin story of how he can create a personality from scratch.
Now saying that, like, in the comics, obviously, he has multiple personalities, and different powers manifest based on those personalities. So, is there an instance where, you know, Sid, Ptonomy, the Carries, are they all parts of his personality, different parts?
I'm trying to help people. Delusion starts like any other idea. As an egg. You stop seeing that. You know what your delusion is?
Or hold the phone, is that... Who's that? Ooh, a dark horse candidate.
The egg cracked just then, and the delusion was born.
The story leaves that open,
Right.
but I don't know if they're going down that route yet. I don't think they're gonna have.
It's always a question in your mind, though.
They're leaving it open if they want to make that decision later on to say, oh, okay, Sid's in his mind, Carries are in his mind. They're created from scratch.
Almost like they're all delusions inside his mind.
Yes. I don't think they're gonna do that though, because I feel like that could, at this point, it's
At the end, you're like, it's all in his mind. Yeah. It'd be like, oh my God, all this was just in his mind.
It leans way too heavily into the unreliable narrator to a point where you're just gonna get a break in the audience at that point. I don't think they're gonna go that far. Let's move on to my favorite thing of the last season. Farooq, easily. Compelling character. He was enigmatic. He was insane at times, but he never really gave that, like Thanos, where you know they're crazy,
Right.
but you never know when you're meeting them if you're gonna live or die, if they can just let you go. You don't know what's gonna happen. That's what I love about Farooq.
Yeah, he's definitely evil, and I'm
Yes.
still in shock that he got his body back at the end of season 2. I'm still in shock that they let this happen. My question to you is, what do we see him what do we see happening for him in season 3? Do we see him going up against David? Do we see him trying to align with David? You know, David is in the outs with Division 3. Would he try to take David under his wing?
What is the phrase? The kiddie table. You gotta get up from a kiddie table. Come and sit with the big boys.
Last season, we saw a whole bunch of Farooq really flirting with the idea of David joining him and, you know, ruling as kings that they say they are.
I feel like Farooq next season, you would think he would just go after Charles Xavier.
Right.
And he would just peace out from the rest of this. I can't imagine, why would he hang out at D3? Obviously he will, because there's gonna be a season 3 and they need the character around. So I'm assuming at the very end of last season, this whole fatherly thing he had on him, you're my baby. I feel like that's gonna be a bigger role next season, like a Darth Vader Luke kind of vibe.
Yeah, he definitely has more motivations than just staying in Division 3. I mean, he has his body back. He's extremely powerful now.
He can do whatever he wants.
He can do whatever he wants, so there's no telling exactly how he will use those powers. I know one thing, that none of those guys can trust him.
Seeing you like this, what you have become. The sweet boy undone by revenge. It fills my heart with such sorrow. Liar.
Also, we're still in the timeline where David becomes Legion.
Yeah.
I'm still going with the the very end where we got Legion holding the orb. I'm telling you that's still happening in the next season, and I have a feeling that Farooq, he's gonna want to try to stop that because he doesn't know where he ends up in this whole thing.
He probably ends up dead in that thing, so he needs to stop Legion from ever getting to that situation.
Yep. So that's how you keep him around.
All right, now speaking of that timeline, are we headed for another time jump? In between season 1 and season 2, we had 1 year. And then of course, at the end of season 2, we saw a fast forward to 3 years with Melanie and Oliver. Is that gonna be the present timeline when we show up in season 3?
Well, because the comics lean heavily on time travel,
Yeah.
I have a feeling we're gonna go far into
Way
the
ahead.
future and then way back to the past. It's gonna go. I feel like that's the only. I hate it too, by the way. I do not like time jumping storylines. Westworld, all of these shows, I can't stand it anymore.
Yeah.
It's a crippling.
As if this show isn't confusing enough.
I can't.
Now we gotta deal with time
stand
travel.
it.
Time. Arrow. Arrow of time. Arrow of time. I'm in the present. So you're in the future. You're in the future. You're in the future?
It's gonna happen. Be ready for it. And I just hope it's not one of those time travel situations where there's a twist at the end of, oh, what year are we actually in? Are we in David's mind in a different year? He split up the timeline entirely.
Right.
We don't know what's going on anymore. None of that. Just bring it back some for the next season.
It would be
pull
really
it
cool
back.
to see that 3-year period, kind of what went down.
Yeah.
To get a little more context of what went down exactly. And also that whole apocalyptic future Mad Max looking vibe.
Give us that.
Give us that. Like, I'm way into seeing that.
Just have that be the setting for the next season.
Yeah.
Completely have that be the next season.
Hopefully more people are alive during that time and it's not just Lenny and David.
She never says, Sid never says that they're all dead.
Right.
So Carrie, Patanomy, they could still all be around. They're just like, they never said who's dead. So I like this idea if they just continue to go right where Legion already has his powers, and then the flashbacks are from little moments from this season, basically season 2.
That's a good call. I mean, he is called the World Killer, so it makes total sense. Another possibility that I was thinking about is now that David knows how the future looks, you know, all of his friends have now outed him as a villain and don't want anything to do with him. He's on the run. Does he try to go back in time? We've always seen him go forward in time and talk to Sid. Does he try to go back in time and try to fix this before it ever happened? Does he try to go back and intervene between his dad and Farooq, or stop Farooq from ever finding him as a child?
You see, the problem with that is, one, where does he go back to D3, steal some tech, and go back in time? Do we meet new characters to have him go back in time,
Right.
or does he use his own powers to go back in time too? Which I'm assuming that's the scenario they're going to go with. Is he does it with his own mind? He can travel back and forth through time. Maybe. Speaking of cast, what do we do with the cast we have now? What's going to happen here?
Yeah, I think one of the things that you and I've talked about a lot is that style over substance. And I think that we need a little more substance from the surrounding characters. And even David himself, to be honest, but we need to fill in some of the backstories of like Patanomy, of the Carries, of even of Sid. You know, we got to learn a little bit more about all of these characters.
Yeah.
And not just get the beautiful looking shots, which we love, don't worry, we love all the cinematography and the sound design and all that kind of stuff, but a little bit more on who these people are, and not just all about David.
I'm curious how they're going to bring back Patanomy.
Yeah.
And also...
Because no one's ever really dead in this show, I don't think.
yeah, there's no way. He could come back as one of the Vermilion, if they even bring back the Vermilion the next season. But at the same time, I just don't know. There's so much up in the air with these characters. They could come back with a clean slate with just Sid, the Carries, moving on to somewhere else to try to find David.
Yeah, and there's definitely going to be changes like we talked about, like Sid no longer being like that love interest of David. So her role changes automatically.
She's the hunter.
She becomes the protagonist, like, you know, tracking down David. And, you know, the Carries, how does that dynamic happen? Also, last season, we kind of had some foreshadowing about male Carrie and his untimely death at some point. So hopefully that doesn't happen. I don't want to see that ever happen. But and then like Amy, is Amy ever going to come back in the physical world? Was haunting Lenny, but we don't. Is that ever going to kind of?
Yes, because now that David and Lenny are together, obviously Amy is gonna come into contact with both of them somehow.
Just got to find a body now.
Holy shit, I got it. Put Amy inside Patonomy's body. So that way we have Jeremy Harris back, and there you go.
And take him out of the tree.
Take him out of the tree. So it's, what, 2 minds in one? Okay, never mind, that doesn't work anymore. Forget it. Damn it.
Excuse me. Do you know where a girl could find a monastery? Cool. Thanks.
And then finally, what about Lenny? I mean, season 1, she was the MVP. Season 2 was kind of, we didn't get a lot of Lenny, and then at the end, she kind of redeemed herself and was helping out David. Now she's kind of David's sidekick. And I'm all for a show with Darkseid David and Lenny by his side.
Aubrey Plaza, she's a busy actor. So I have a feeling that we may get the same amount of screen time, maybe even less than what we got in season 2. I hope not, but at the same time, I know it might be hard to like shoot her. So we'll see. I'd
definitely like to see more of that backstory filled out as well.
Yeah.
And the bond that Lenny and David had, and when they met at Clockworks, all that kind of stuff, and just more of that.
Speaking of cast, I think there's one person we know we want to add next season, Professor X.
Please, give us Professor X.
Or I feel like they'll hint at him a little bit more. They'll probably name drop him.
They've teased it so much, and even on the late night shows.
What about Professor X in Legion?
I just think it's time. We need to see his dad. He needs to make some sort of impact, even a small little cameo. I'm not asking him to come over here and save the world. There has to be more, a bigger universe of mutants or Inhumans in Legion. They can't all be at Division 3. They can't all be hanging out. We haven't seen all of them, so I want to just expand the universe a little bit larger and just give us Professor X.
I feel like that's very low on the totem pole for Noah Hawley's plans for next season.
I agree.
At the same time, adding again, we talked about this earlier, we're adding new comic characters. It's going to be obscure. It's going to be very obscure.
Yeah.
Whatever they pick.
Die-hard fans and comic book readers will probably get it immediately.
Yes.
But it might take a little more digging for others. But
again,
just one shot of Professor X, one little conversation. I want to see that moment where David and his father get to talk, whether it's on the astral plane or it's in real life.
I think we'll get that. I hope it's next season. And at the same time, this sounds like something too, I hate to say it, but it's going to be like a season finale kind of thing.
A series finale.
Yeah, or a series finale, yes. I was saying season finale for maybe this season, where they're going to like just string it along until the very end.
And just wait to the very end.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to wait until the series finale, even though they could, because the X-Men, they can have a major moment where the X-Men come in and try to stop this. Doubtful.
Don't get all of our hopes up. And finally, my last wish on this list is a shorter season. One of the biggest complaints that I have with a lot of these shows, not just comic book superhero shows, yes, I know, I see that little violin.
Yes, yes.
They're just too long. It's just too many hours to invest into a show that you could do with 8 hours.
Yes, but I feel like this is coming from, now I feel like a f***ing hypocrite for what I said about Netflix shows. I feel like they should be extremely chopped down to at least 8 or 6. At the same time, we work in the media and screeners and watching these shows. I feel like we don't see it the same way that everyone else does. So people love watching. They love to see that there's 12 episodes, 20 episodes in the queue where they can just stay in this world.
How about this? Shorter seasons, but shorter time in between seasons too.
Okay, I like this. So Noah Hawley would spend all of his time.
He's an extremely busy man, so I'm not trying to put any pressure on him. But I just think that overall, like, if you can be a little bit more concise and stick to the main momentum of a storyline and not kind of deviate too far with all this beautiful lights and cool camera angles and all that kind of stuff. Like, just stick to more of the narrative that we want to see. I mean, we were waiting for Farooq to get his body for 11 episodes.
And that's not the number of episodes, though. This is the script. We're talking about the script now. We're talking about just make sure to have a nice, concise script.
Yeah.
It can be as many episodes as you want it to be, as long as your script is damn good. That's it.
What do we do now?
Now we pray.
All right, guys, that's it for our list, but let us know in the comments below what you guys want to happen in Season 3 of Legion.
Also, let us know what you want us to cover, as in TV shows. It's a little light schedule right now until we get later on to the season.
We need shows to watch.
Give us something. I'm looking forward to Castle Rock. Let us know if you want us to cover that.
See you guys soon.
Bye-bye.